Hello and welcome to our complimentary webinar, which is brought to you today in partnership with Genesis, AusContact's national silver sponsor, and it's entitled Employees as the New Customer, Rethinking Workforce Engagement Management for a New Era. In the spirit of reconciliation, AusContact acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Today's webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes, and during that time, with the help of today's special guests, Andy, Bradley and Andrew, we hope to spark your interest, engage you in the conversation, as well as provide you with some ideas to take back to your respective businesses. To round off the session, we'll be having a Q&A. I'm Fiona Keogh, CEO of AusContact and your moderator for today. While we're waiting for everyone to join us, let's use the time to quickly run through some housekeeping. Remember, it's important to interact with us to maximise the benefit, and also there's a special prize, but we'll find out a little bit about that shortly. There's no need to take too many notes because we'll be providing you with a recording of the webinar. To interact with us, please use the Q&A button on the control panel. You can ask questions or make comments for Andy, Bradley or Andrew or myself from time to time. Don't forget we're having that Q&A at the end of the webinar, so please type your questions as we go along so you don't forget to ask them. If you are having technical difficulties, please note that on the control panel you can click the yellow raise hand button and the AusContact team will rush to your aid. Or you can revert to your registration confirmation email, and all the relevant phone numbers and access codes are available there for you. I know that many of you are familiar with asking questions, but let's just try out that Q&A button on the control panel, just in case you haven't asked a question before. And the question for today is, are you taking time off during the festive season? Now, I can tell you I am, but is anybody else going to be doing that? Carol said, yep, she's out and about. Anna, no. Alison, of course. Emily, oh, sad face. Sarah Sutton, yes. Okay, so I think we've got a very cool bunch of attendees today. We've got a bit of a mixed bag about who's going to be at work and who's not, but at least we know the Australian economy is going to be ticking over. That's a good thing. So I promised you that we were going to give you a prize if you asked a question in the Q&A session at the end of the webinar, and it is a chance to win a $200 JB Hi-Fi voucher. And I'm thinking about what Chrissy Precies might go with that. The winner will be announced after the webinar. And with that, I'm very pleased to announce our speakers for today. And they are Andy Hardy, Director, Employee Engagement, ANZ at Genesis, Bradley Hoyle, Operational Excellence Manager at BizCover, Andrew Thean, Senior Solution Consultant at Genesis. And with that, welcome Andy, and it's over to you to take us away.
Awesome, thank you Fiona. Yeah, thanks guys for taking the time to join the session today. We are going to talk a little bit around the employee and the employee as the new customer. I kind of live and breathe this from an employee engagement perspective at Genesis, and spend a lot of time talking to customers and organisations about their employee engagement strategies and the direction that they're taking with their own employees. And I put this slide up first, and then I'm going to get rid of this very quickly. But the kind of the impact that we've seen over the past 18 months, coming up to 2 years now, these words, I'm sick of the sight of them. I'm sick of seeing them, and I'm sure you all are as well. They're words that I think we're, fingers crossed, hopefully going to start putting behind us in going into 2022, and we can start focusing on whatever that new normal might look like. Now, a lot of the things that I want to talk to you about today, I think most organizations are actually, they're thinking about already, and don't get me wrong, they've had to think about it much more over the past 18 months or so, but it's around flexibility, around remote working, obviously, the digital transformation and the impact on the digital transformation on your employees themselves. empowering your agents, etc., etc. And all of these different things have probably been in your plans 2 years ago. They'll have been in your plans for the future. But what's had to happen is they've really been consolidated in, and they've been crammed into a very short space of time in you having to adjust your business and adjust your organization to try and help those employees who aren't sitting at a desk right in front of you anymore, who are remote and are having to work in a different scenario to what they've ever experienced before. So we'll talk a little bit through that and the impact that that's maybe had on the world and on our employees, and what we can potentially do in the future to help improve things. And I wanted to put this on the screen, and you've probably seen this even all over the news. I was watching Breakfast TV just a couple of days ago, and they were talking about the Great Resignation. But what's interesting about this Great Resignation is there's so many varying statistics on it. I've seen things from 20% and 25% to 50%, and this one is the largest I've seen so far. Is 65% of employees are potentially going to be looking for a new role in a potentially a new company as soon as we hit this post-pandemic world. Now, that's a really interesting statistic, right? It's a really interesting number, and they're saying that people have been holding back on changing their roles because they didn't want to rock the boat a little bit, and they wanted the stability of being in an organization when they were going through this COVID period, and they wanted that stability. But now they're actually looking at this new opportunity and new way of positions to be able to work in. But why I think that's really relevant is the world is different. We've gone, think about recruiters. Recruiters used to have to recruit people within the catchment area of their contact center. So they used to have to look at people who could travel into their center to work every day. That doesn't exist anymore. That doesn't necessarily have to happen now. So from a recruiter's perspective, they've now got this whole landscape of people who work who could work potentially from anywhere, rural communities and different locations that they maybe couldn't tap into before, that they're now going to be able to do. So what that does is that opens up opportunity. And with opportunity opens up potential for employees to look at new positions in new companies that they never thought they'd be able to work for in the past. I think that's really important. And I think why that's important from your business's perspective is it's how do you look at your employees? Are they a cost to your business where, you've got to pay them salaries and wages, and then you've got to pay to recruit new people and train them and coach them and develop them? Or are they actually seen as an asset and something that's going to provide and drive your business forward? And I think if they're seen as a cost, they're a very expensive cost to you if we're going to start to see this huge transition of people changing roles. So what can we do as businesses to be able to stop that? And what difference does it make if we do stop that and we retain this talent and we put this employee engagement strategy in place to be able to keep those people and keep those people happy? And there's a multitude of studies out there that talk about these different things around EX, and it is EX the new CX. And if we provide more employee experience and an improved employee experience, naturally they provide a better customer experience. So when the focus starts to come on this, there's studies from Accenture that says that organizations are potentially six times more profitable when they have a real focus on the employee rather than just on customer. It might be a term that you haven't heard yet, the TX. So TX from Gartner is your CX and your EX and your MX, multi-experience, with your UX. That's a lot of X's. But by 2024, they're suggesting that 25% outperforming competitors if you've got a real TX strategy. But obviously a key part of that is EX, an employee experience. And look, a study that says 49% of organizations do actually have plans that they're starting to look at now to reduce agent attrition and reduce turnover. And they are starting to look at things like flexible working hours and increased compensation and using analytics smarter and using the supervisor coaching, career paths, gamification, all these different tools and methods and things that are available to you now within the technology set that you have to be able to drive that experience better for employees. And look, another thing that we've got to consider around the employees is this huge digital transformation that we've just put in place. So, we've gone from a transformation that was probably 3 years long for businesses where they've just had to cram it in so much faster and put it in weeks and start looking at things like chatbots and email and social. And 87% of businesses say that their digital channels have increased. Now, how does that affect the employee? Well, actually, you've got a different skill set in your business that you need now. You might be a fantastic agent at having a verbal conversation with somebody, but if you're throwing chat messages and you've got 3 on the go, and now you've got to communicate in writing to these people, that's a different skill set altogether, that ability to be able to do that. And, I think helping employees through that transition and that journey, rather than, sorry, now you're just a chat person, it's really important to get the training right and coaching right, and that kind of development as well. So I think there has been a change and a shift in the technology we're using to service customers. Customers don't care which channel they use. They expect the same experience and the same service regardless of channel. So we've got to enable our employees to be able to deliver that service regardless of which one of those channels they're having to communicate with the customers with. And look, 71% of executives say that employee engagement is critical, which is brilliant. But actually, Forbes saying 87% of people are not engaged at work. And what does that mean? What's the difference between that? Well, an engaged employee to a satisfied employee. I could be satisfied in my role today, and I come to work and I work good hours and I pick up my salary and I go home. Am I satisfied in my job? Yeah, I'm satisfied. I'll tell people that I've got a good job. Am I engaged? Do I care about the brand of the company, giving the best possible service I can? Am I empowered within my organization? Well, maybe not. And I think engagement and satisfaction sometimes do get a little bit mixed up. And I think we've got to try and move away from just satisfying our teams to actually engaging them and make them feel part of our business. And look, more and more statistics, but I promise this is the last one. Engaged employees will be so much more productive. Highly engaged employees will reduce attrition. There's thousands of these, and I'm happy to share the links to all of these different studies if you're interested in finding out. And what can we do technology-wise? Genesys, for a technology company, what do we do? And let's put the technology side of how we can help our employees into the spotlight quickly. And look at this quickly. Imagine you're a new starter in your business. You've just joined your organization, and from a contact center perspective, you've got a CRM system and a payroll system, and probably a knowledge base and email management. You've probably got some sort of chat capability. You might even have Genesys Cloud, who can also do quite a lot of those things as well. You might have blogs and Zoom meetings and reporting and dialers and everything else that goes with it, right? That's just to get started. That's not even anything to do with the engagement of the employee. That's just the basics. That's a lot to learn for a new starter to come into an organization. Then start looking at what happens when you introduce the parts around employee engagement. You'll have a workforce management system, probably a quality management system, speech analytics. You'll have a learning management system, gamification. You've probably got performance scorecards. You've probably got a coaching tools. You maybe even have mobile apps that the agents can use. Look at all of those things that you bring a new person on board with, and they've then got to learn. Imagine how hard that is if they're remote and they've got to learn all of these different things as well. So the view of to support your employees actually is the consolidation of some of these things, is bringing some of these things together to make it a little bit more connected, a little bit more seamless for the employee. Really, the employee shouldn't have to think about the technology. The technology should be secondary to what they're doing. It should just be on hand and at their fingertips, and it should be, look at the power of artificial intelligence we have available to us now. Gone are the days where we need to bolt together multiple systems to try and deliver this experience to agents. We can remove that now and use the power of technology to be able to streamline and simplify a lot of these processes. And if you look at that connected together, and I think about a connected employee experience now, your employee should be in one platform, and they should be able to see all of their information, data, deal with their customers, see their performance statistics, see all of the different things around maybe gamification, or be able to see their schedules, and everything else should just be in one place. But also your quality evaluator should be in the same place. They should be listening to the same calls and seeing the same screens from the agents, and being able to identify where there's development needs and there's coaching needs. And if there is coaching needs, they should be able to automatically assign coaching and learning in the same place to the agents. So that's all a seamless process. They should automatically be able to connect through to workforce management and surface the best possible time for that agent to get that development at any one point. And the coaching team should do the same. And the forecasting and capacity planning and scheduling teams should all be using the same data in the same platform, reporting analytics, et cetera, et cetera. I can go on forever. All of these different people here are all providing a service to the agent to provide a better experience for the agent. They've all probably got their own targets and their own goals and things that they've got to achieve. But ultimately, it's all about getting the agent to be the best they can possibly be, to ultimately provide the best customer experience. Bringing this technology together, and I think in the future, removing the labels of things like quality management and speech analytics and gamification. Those labels will go. It'll be about employee experience, and it'll just be one environment, one world, where you can get access to all of these different things, and they don't need to be labeled independently. So look, if you want to find out any more about this sort of stuff, Genesys ourselves have released a huge amount of case studies and guides and best practices, and there's links to webinars, and I'll happily share this. You can see this in the recording that Fiona will send out, but I'll happily share a link as well for you to be able to go in to view some of this stuff and just help kind of guide you on how you can. Maybe you've already got there with your employee engagement. You want to verify that you're on the path of everybody else in the world. But these things drop into specifics for retail and healthcare, government, banking, insurance, and the likes as well. So, please feel free to go and have a look at this resource. And obviously, you're welcome to reach out to us as well if you want us to talk this through with you a little bit more. So, look, that's enough from me. I really wanted to get through my slides and just get through that kind of thought vision around things at the moment, but I really wanted to get to Bradley and talk a little bit about BizCover. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, and Fiona, I think you're going to do a poll. Is that right?
We are going to do a poll because hopefully everybody just listened to what you shared, especially some of those compelling statistics. And the poll is, how important do you believe employee engagement is to your organisation? It's not important. It's fairly important, it's very important, or it's critical to our success. Now, Andy, without giving the answer away, what are you expecting to see?
Well, I'd hope not important, if I'm honest with you. I think, look, I think if we'd done this 18 months ago to 2 years ago, I think people would have seen it as fairly important, and maybe even some stretching into very, very important. I don't know. I think I'd hope I'd see very important to critical to success being the leader. But if it's all not important, then we might as well stop the webinar now, and we can all get on with our days.
Yeah, I was going to hark back to our conference from 2019, which was CX plus EX, if you remember.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, I do.
Back then. So even then we thought it was important. And guess what? Jess, if you want to share the results of the poll, guess what? 77% said it's critical and 23% said it's very important. So I think we've got a bunch of people that really get it. Yep. So with that, I'm going to see the embers burning behind you while you have your fireside chat with Brad. Awesome.
Thank you. So yes, welcome, Brad, and thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us today and chat to the audience a little bit about your experiences around employee engagement. Before we crack off, I'm sure a lot of people know who BizCover are, but if you wouldn't mind just giving a little bit of an overview of BizCover and you and your role and where you fit in the organization, that'd be great.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for the opportunity. So BizCover started about 14 years ago to improve the insurance process for small and medium businesses. So I think the whole business mission is focused on customer experience. So when we talk about customer experience and employee experience later, it's really going to it's be obvious that it's part of the business goal. So we've been growing quite rapidly. So we now have operations in Australia, New Zealand, the US, and we've just launched in South Africa. And we've been growing about 30% year on year. I think you look at the constant trends of more and more people looking to go digital, for all their kinds of insurances. They're expecting that awesome experience online. And BizCover's just been kind of sitting there waiting for those customers. And every year we see more and more people choosing to go online. So we're kind of organically growing with the market and making sure we're there to provide that, world-class experience each and every time. We're currently at about 200 employees, probably about 80 in the contact center space and operation space. So, looking at your kind of, people who are using our CRM and, Genesys and these kind of tools. And we've got quite a large tech staff as well. Obviously, we're kind of a fintech leader and we really push heavy on the tech side. So yeah, that's a little bit about BizCover. My team, Operational Excellence, we kind of work as a internal consultancy, I would call it. So going around and making sure each division in the business has the right technology, processes, and people to work efficiently. So we might jump into the sales area one week and say, okay, show me what you're doing. Let's have a look at your customer feedback and your NPS and what are your processes and what tech are you using? What kind of risks do you have? And then we'll build a whole bunch of automations, review processes, and really help them get everything back on track and then move on to the next part of the business and just keep doing that in a cycle to make sure the operation is the best it can be.
And do they, that's really interesting that you go into the teams. Are they accepting that you're coming in and helping them with their processes? So I guess they're crying out for, they'll know where the pain points are, right? So they're crying out for that extra support.
Yeah, I think we've built that level of trust as a team to go in and have positive change. And I think the company itself is very open to change, very innovative. We want to be the best. So we've got that real culture of improvement and innovation. So everyone's looking for as much help as they can get.
Yeah, great. Now we're talking about employee engagement stuff today. So tell me a little bit about BizCover, and I'm going to use the word COVID again. Tell me a little bit about BizCover pre-COVID and where you were and I guess what changes and things you had to do to evolve to get to where you are today.
Yeah, I think pre-COVID, we were already well and truly on that customer experience roadmap. We'd already invested heavily in looking at our customer journeys and our NPS and what we can do from that point of view. What really happened when COVID hit was, I think, like everyone, we had to rapidly think about our employees, right? They were very heavily impacted. How were we going to manage contact centers working remotely on people's home Wi-Fi's? What was the reporting and monitoring going to be like? So very quickly, we had to transition all of that. So I think that was our biggest hurdle, getting all the networking and telephony and CRM and communication pieces working. So we were quite good in the CX already. We weren't really thinking about all of that. So very quickly, within the space of about a week or two, we transitioned everyone to home. We thought workforce management was going to be a key thing. So we invested in, I believe, the tier 3 of Genesys Cloud, which got us some really awesome workforce management tools. And we really doubled down on how our teams communicated and managed. I think COVID, everyone on this call can probably attest to COVID bringing about positive change in the form of, work-life balance, work from home. If we didn't have that sudden shift, I think it would have taken us another 5 years to get that done. Yeah. So I think everyone can see the benefits there. We really stopped and rethought and optimized all of our processes in terms of employees and managing our workforce and what metrics mattered and what reporting we were using. So we kind of used it as a catalyst to change and improve. And we actually came out with something that was better than what we had previously. So I'm actually, quite grateful in a way that we could actually take the time to have real focus on this as an issue and come out with a solution that was optimal for the business.
How do you feel the employees themselves felt through the transition? Because obviously a lot of people are different and, I came home and started to work and I just moved into a new house and didn't have a desk at home and I was working from the dining room table and, it wasn't the best experience for me personally. How were your employees? Did they embrace the opportunity to work remotely or were they challenged by it?
Yeah, I think overall it was embraced. I think we made sure we did a soft launch with a handful of agents and really got a picture of what it was going to be like. So then when we moved the whole workforce, we were there to support. We had all of the correct kind of change management pieces ready with documentation, support guides, common queries about networking, and how do I see reports? How do I communicate with people? I think all businesses have really upped their communication game, and you think of all the way we're using quick texting now and webinars and all of that, and that's been really important. So I think overall it was embraced. There's always issues with isolation and people struggling without that social aspect. So as long as you can manage that, I think overall it's been a big success.
Yeah, good. And if I think about your business itself, so we've got your employees there, and you've done this transition. There was quite a few studies originally, and Fiona mentioned it earlier when we were talking around CX and EX, and there was quite a lot of studies when COVID first hit around operational efficiency going up, but there was a lot of talk then around agent well-being and overcommitment and the pressures on them, and that kind of Aussie attitude of everyone gets stuck in and delivers to get the best outcome for each other. But there's a lot around that, and a lot of organizations talking around the impact on employee well-being and mental health and all these other areas that probably weren't words that were at the forefront of our minds 2 or 3 years ago, whereas they became very, very relevant now. So with that in mind, you've obviously put steps in place to engage with your teams and your business and things, your employees. When you now think around, did your business suffer or improve, I guess, from a performance perspective over that period of time? I guess to start with, and then have you seen a dip, or how have you found it from an organization perspective?
Yeah, if you look at our key operational metrics, we've been very successful. So as a business, we've always had, for the last 12 months, a plus 75 NPS, an exceptional score. That did not dip at all through COVID. So I think we pivoted quickly with certain things that would help customers. So there were some operational changes where we, offered financial hardship and these kind of things that a lot of companies did. We shifted a lot more resources to the service area to help people. Obviously, sales took a dip, so we thought, how can we reassign and help our customer base? If you look at our really contact center metrics, we actually massively improved them. So I think partially to do with getting the tier 3 of Genesys and having more understanding of workforce management, but also just rethinking our processes, our management structures, our reporting. We took our after call work from 3.5 minutes down to 30 seconds, which is a massive improvement, work from home. And our contact center adherence went from 62% to 92%. So, that didn't happen overnight, but it was a slow, progressive improvement to where we are now. So looking at some of those metrics, our customer experience never went down and our agents become way more productive. So we've seen it as a very positive kind of time frame for us.
That's a huge reduction in after call work.
Yeah.
especially when people are working in their dining rooms at home and the likes as well, to be able to deliver on that. That's fantastic news.
Yeah.
Wow. So okay, what does 24 months out look like for you? What's the next 12 months? What's the next 24 months? What's the future now? So you've obviously got this new normal, or this new way of working. Are you going to bring people back into the contact centers? Are you going to have a flexible working world? What's the next steps for you guys?
I think the next 12 months I think we'll probably focus more on that work from home, flexible, all cloud-based kind of world that we're all going to be living in. A key focus for us is artificial intelligence. So really, how do we augment agents and not replace what they're doing, but let them focus on the high empathy tasks, remove the mundane, and really give them the data that they need at their fingertips to improve their operations and services. So, looking at tools like Genesys, like Salesforce, building our own proprietary AI, I think there's a lot of focus there. It's kind of, once you've almost perfected the CX and you're well on the way to focusing on EX as well, I think now plug in AI and see where it can help on those two metrics. Customer expectations are always growing. They're always expecting, if your focus is to wow customers, you need to be ahead of them at all the time. You can't just be doing the normal. You've got to always think of the future. So I think AI is a really big one for us, and probably focusing on channels. What kind of channels do our customers really want, and trying to provide personalization on a customer level. So if people really like talking to us via SMS, via chat, if they like always having phone calls or emails, how can we really be there in their channel of choice and provide the best possible service? Personally, I'd love to have as much self-service in those channels as possible. But really, how can we be channel leaders and really, whenever you interact with BizCover, it's always a professional, world-class service in any channel you choose. So AI and that are probably our two big focuses.
Yeah, I think that channel stuff's really interesting as well, and it's got to be a consistent experience. Like I said earlier, it shouldn't matter whether you're sending a text message or you're calling or you're sending an email or you're using online chat. It should be a continuation of that service. And
yeah,
the thought of having to start again and go back through everything, no matter what channel you move to, and go back through all of the details, that's just a painful customer experience, and people will stop doing it. They'll stop using all of these different channels, and that then reduces your opportunity of servicing your customers as well. So yeah, it's really interesting. We've got one question that's popped up on the chat, which I'll quickly ask you. So what were the major WFM strategies you implemented to increase your adherence by such a large amount? Very impressive. And that's come from Dan.
Yeah, I think across all of these things, it comes down to two things, right? So there's the people and there's the tech. And I guess going a little bit back, I really like the way you were talking about, having business success has very much been linked to customer experience. And then the drivers for customer experience are really employee experience and technology. So, we very much believe that ourselves, and you really need to focus on agents and provide them with the best possible tech and processes so they can provide that really good customer experience. So I think going back to workforce management, it's once again people and tech, right? So we really wanted to get the company culture sorted first, have all of our people from our agents in the contact center, their direct managers, our next tier management, all understanding the metrics, what they actually provide to the business and our customers, and then speaking the same language and really being consistent with reporting. So I think having that single focus as a company was really important. Then moving on to what are the tools and processes we have? Are they up to scratch? Will they be able to provide us world-class WFM? So we invested in Genesys Cloud. We relooked at some of our processes and made sure what the agents were doing was really effective. So, it's a mixture of making sure your agents are productive, but also giving them productive processes. For example, all of our calls, whenever they're wrapped up, they automatically update the CRM, put customers into journeys automatically, send emails. Our agents don't have to do any of that stuff. So instantly, they're wrapping up a call, they're putting in notes, our CRM's updating, people are in journeys, and they're straight on to the next work item. So that can massively reduce your handle times and things like after call work. So that was a really good strategy. So yeah, I think focus on that culture, your technology from a point of view of process automation and improvement, as well as reporting and monitoring. They're probably the three key things I'd mention.
Yeah, cool. We've got 3 rapid fire questions before we jump over to Andrew, and we have a bit of a run through of what this actually means day in the life when we can do this. So we've got Jason. What is the biggest challenge to employee engagement with the move to either work from home or hybrid home site model? Can it be overcome? What was the biggest challenge you felt you faced?
Yeah, I think there's probably 2 things I'd mention. One is the technology, the networking, the hardware, all of that kind of system issues that you're going to face. So do people have quality internet at home? Do they have the right hardware? Are you running everything through a browser, or are you using unique widgets and things to do things? We saw our US business using the browser for everything. email was done through Gmail. They were using it for their CRM. They were using it for their marketing. They were using it for their phone systems. So trying to really make sure you're streamlining the system as much as possible to provide a really smooth employee experience. When we first saw this, we were seeing our agents basically report, weird issues with their emails not working or things like this. And we had to figure out, okay, like the agent experience has to be streamlined. We have to get this right for them before they'll start actually producing from home. And the other one is, I think, getting people who are working in their lounge rooms to understand the metrics, like what they're actually, know their adherence, know their after call work, and know some of these key stats so they can actually be part of the program, right? It's really hard if you're just having a once a week check-in with someone to really get them across what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So providing them real-time access to adherence, after call work, their NPS, their customer feedback, keeps them in the loop and keep them engaged with what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another couple of questions on here, Brad, but I'm just looking at the time. We'll leave these next ones. So William and Leslie, don't worry, I haven't missed them, but we'll leave these to the end, because what I wanted to do, Bradley, thank you so much for chatting to us. I'm sure these questions will be getting fired back at you in another 15 minutes. What I wanted to do is I wanted to introduce Andrew Thean into the session. What Andrew's going to do, he's one of our principal solution consultants at Genesys, and what I thought would be really useful for you to see is almost, you can hear me talking about this connected world and how important it is to provide all this clarity and this transparency to your agents to make them feel engaged. And Brad's just said the exact same thing there with his teams. What I wanted to do is get Andrew to almost give you a little bit of a day in the life experience of, if it is all connected together and all kind of stitched together within just one platform, what does that mean and what does that look like? So with that, I'll pass over to you, Andrew, if you wouldn't mind giving us a quick run through of what that means. And everyone, please keep asking questions in the chat, and I'm sure Fiona will pick them up at the end.
Sure. Thanks, Andy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Andrew. Let me just do a quick introduction of two people that I will be introducing to you in this quick snap demo that I'll be doing for you. I have Agent Fidel, who's the agent. He basically is going to look at his performance, his schedules, that kind of stuff. And then after that, let me also introduce you to Andrew, who's the manager. He will talk a little bit about what kind of reports is he able to see from a QA lens, analytics lens, and from a workforce management perspective as well. So let me just jump straight into the demo system itself. So I've logged in here through a web-based solution. Agent Fidel's logged in here. I'm just going to put myself off queue. Agent Fidel's logged in here. He has a quick summary view of what his schedule looks like for that particular day. On the top two panels here, he can actually see his performance, his scorecard summary. And on the bottom here, he can actually see whether he's been actually assigned any coaching appointments or learning items as well. Agent Fidel, let's say he goes in there and says, how is he doing for that particular day? How's he been performing? The business has the opportunity to surface or visualize some of the KPIs in the system. So take, for example, punctuality, let's say average hold time or average handle time. And the business is able to actually allocate almost like a gamified view or point systems of how, take for example, if the agent hits that sweet spot of between 5 minutes to 7 minutes 40 seconds, he gets that full 350 points versus, and if he starts to deviate away from that, he gets less points. And this is actually a game mechanics to actually keep the agents engaged and to help them even have some healthy competition with their colleagues as well. And there are a few metrics that you can see. Me as Agent Fidel, let me just have a look at the leaderboard. How am I doing for today? I'm not sure whether will be doing too well. Oh, I'm top of the list. Well done. So I've actually top of the list, followed by Mark Booth and Anne Marie. And you can do it across the date range, of course, and of course across specific metrics as well if you wanted to. But it's good to, especially at the peak of COVID when everyone's working from home. It was one of the mechanisms to actually help the employees actually feel connected to one another, even though they were in a virtual space, essentially. Next thing is Agent Fidel also has the ability actually to dive in to see his schedule in a little bit more detail because you don't have your manager that you can just raise your hand so easily to ask for some questions. or when he's working. We make sure that employees actually have a good visibility of when they're supposed to work. So take for example here, there's this faint yellow highlight which is identifies as the 25th of May, 25th of November, and it's approximately 12:41, which is this faint yellow line showing that I'm actually scheduled on a meal and I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing because I'm actually off queue. But if I actually took myself and put myself on queue, just get rid of this. The system will actually proactively notify me or bring to my attention what I'm actually supposed to be doing. So I'm actually out of adherence. I'm actually supposed to be on a meal break. And in retrospect, if you flip that in reverse, if I was actually supposed to be on queue and I wasn't on queue, the system actually notify me that, you better get on queue here. Because of remote working has been such a big thing, we also provide agents different means or different ways to actually view their schedules. We actually allow agents to view their schedules by synchronizing it to an external calendar, which they can actually overlay on top of their own personal calendar. Take, for example, Google or Outlook. They can easily overlay their work calendar with their home life calendar as well. We also provide mobile applications supported both on iOS and Android that the agents can actually view their schedules, apply for leave, and even get a push notification whenever there's a change in their schedules as well. Agents also have the ability to swap their shifts with a potential colleague that they want to swap with. Of course, all these are governed by business rules as well. The agent also can apply for leave and take time off from within here. And we have business rules in place in terms of you as the manager or the organization can actually say how many people can take leave for a particular day, and you can set the rules around that as well. So let me just bring in my manager here, just so that he can show you a little bit of things that what he actually sees. So I've actually logged in here as Andrew, who's the manager. And I've actually gone to what we could say the performance page, and in Workspace, there are a bunch of reports that you can easily access. These reports are all very customizable, what we call views. In this case, I've actually gone to Contact Center. I'm actually gone to Interactions. Just because of time, I actually opened up the tab itself earlier. So I've searched. I'm searching for interactions which have been recorded by Genesys Cloud. Genesys Cloud records every interaction that is handled by Genesys Cloud by an agent, whether it's a phone call, chat, email, social, SMS. We record it all, and I've selected a date range between the 1st of June to the 15th of June, 2021. And I can also filter the calls based on media type, caller ID, and things that you typically expect. But one thing that I've set the filter here is basically I filtered based on the user, which is Agent Fidel. What I did want to call out, you also have the ability to search by a score given by your team leader or your QA. You can also search for a score given by an external party, which is example, your customer. So take, for example, this report, this group of calls here, I want to actually add in to see, has my customers actually scored any of these interactions? And I want to add in some survey data. So let's turn it on. It has survey data, survey status, survey form, and survey score. And I noticed here, Agent Fidel, on the 1st of June, 2 minutes, 47 seconds, the customers actually scored him 100% based on this survey form, which is very interesting. So let me dive into that and let me have a look at what that interaction took place. And Genesys Cloud actually records the conversation in stereo, allocating one channel specifically for the agents, the other channels dedicated for the customer. And we actually provide automatic scoring on it. We provide you an overall sentiment score, as well as overall sentiment trend score. The system automatically identifies whenever a negative event takes place, whenever a positive event takes place as well. And we actually do voice transcription for you. We convert that whole conversation into a text as well. Genesys Cloud also allows you to actually record the screens. Historically, Genesys Cloud has recorded a single screen, but customers have said, you need to get with the times and you need to be able to record more than a single screen. So we have actually gone above and beyond, and we actually currently are able to record concurrently, not one, not two, not three, but we're actually able to record 4 screens concurrently. In my case, I only have 3 screens. So I have a stopwatch on the left, center screen, which is the interaction, and a video running on the right. And I can maximize any of these screens, and you can see that the video is still running in synchronous, even with everything else running in the background, just providing you that full 360-degree view of the employee. Let me just close that. So take, for example, within here, we do speech to text transcription. The system automatically puts calls into particular topics as well. So if I just take a step back here, when we put calls into particular topics, Genesys Cloud actually comes predefined to allow you to do filtering based on topic and trends analysis. So take, for example, here, these are some of the topics that I've selected across a time range. And Genesys Cloud has basically given all our customers default the ability to select the topics here, filter the calls, and we have included within here 39 default topics across 3 key areas around agent behavior, contact reason, and customer experience. So take, for example, expressing empathy, greetings, contact reasons around balance inquiry, website issues, customer experience around dissatisfaction, satisfaction, or even profanity. And we have about over 2,000 phrases within here. So basically from day one to turn Genesys Cloud on, you already have calls dropping into all these buckets. And of course, you can create your own topics if you like at a later time, but that obviously takes time for you to deploy it out. But day one, you already have these 39 default topics and over 2,000 phrases in the system itself. So let's jump back here again. And let's say at the back of having a look at Agent Fidel's conversation, I actually want to, let's say, evaluate that particular conversation. The system comes out of the box, even with a quality management capability in the system. I can basically then create an evaluation for that particular conversation. You can, of course, create any of these customer evaluation forms. And let me just select the manager, Andrew Tien. And these forms are customizable by yourself as a business. I'm just going to quickly go up to fill up these forms. You can have multiple sections, greetings, soft skills, and you configure it yourself. You can have scaling questions, yes, no questions, multiple choice. You can have branching questions. So for example, did the agent have the opportunity to upsell to the customer? If I click yes, opens up more questions here. I'm just going to fill this up here. And basically, I'll submit at the end. At the back of that, I can also create a coaching session here. When I create a coaching session, let's say one-to-one meeting, I can basically have the interaction link. I can basically add in a learning item. So take, for example, I want to add in a video, just click next, click on when to schedule that particular activity. Workforce management surfaces when's the best time to do it. Seems like Friday, 26th of November is the best time. It will be negative 6.4 versus Thursday the 25th, which is negative 10.9 people as an example. So if I click finish and I just submit my evaluation, let's assume that we're all working from home. Agent Fidel basically gets a notification that his schedule's been updated. He's got an update from his training activity here. If I click on this particular training activity, that basically takes him to that coaching session. Sorry, I'm back to Agent Fidel so that we just don't get confused. I get notification that, you know, these days have changed for my schedule. I just close this off. I've gone to that coaching appointment. If I click on this learning item or video, that plays the video as part of my learning component. I'll just close this off. And then basically, if I actually click this particular link, that actually takes me to that particular recording, the notes that my manager has left me. It also takes me to that quality management session that I was supposed to go through as well. So that kind of completes that full 360-degree engagement between the agent and the manager. Let me just take Fidel away. And finally, the last bit is Genesys Cloud also provides a full-fledged workforce management capability in the system. We actually do have the ability to allow your agents to, the resource manager to forecast all the interactions that are coming in. And basically, Genesys Cloud is one of the first in the industry to what we do is introduce AI-powered forecasting. And what is AI-powered forecasting? We use 25 algorithms versus a single algorithm to provide you the best data. We basically automatically identify missing data sets, outliers, and we do pattern detections, which is your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month trends. And basically take that and pump that into the 25 models and basically let the system generate what is the best forecast that's available for you. And basically it's done as easy as a single click, and you get your results within 15 seconds, which is absolutely fast and phenomenal. At the back of that, you get a forecast that looks something like this. Oops, I probably should use a different one because I was mucking around with that one yesterday. You basically get a forecast that looks something like this for your contact center. And then at the back of that, basically, you will be able to automatically build schedules at the back of that forecast And basically, when you build a schedule, of course, you have the ability to assign shifts and that kind of stuff. And the system will tell you how well you're doing. These are the number of people that I have scheduled for that particular day. The forecast number shows me the number of people that I should actually have, and basically what's the difference, just providing you the insights of how well you're doing against your forecast to hit a service level that you want to set. And finally, to sum it all off, basically the ability to monitor from an intraday perspective how you are actually doing against your forecast. We capture all the different metrics such as service levels, offered, agents, answered, completed, handle time, abandoned, average speed of answer, and occupancy. And with every metric here, pretty much we give you a predicted value versus what you're actually hitting. Example of forecast, you forecast is 63 calls to come in, but obviously it's a demo system. I don't have any actual calls coming in here. And finally, we have real-time adherence, basically to allow you to actually track what each agent is doing. Let's take, for example, Agent Fidel. Currently, he is severely out of adherence. He's actually scheduled for a meal break, but he's actually on queue. So the impact's positive, but he's been doing that for the past 12 minutes. And if I took Agent Fidel here, I'm just going to take him off queue here. And as you can see, basically immediately Agent Fidel will be in adherence. He's scheduled to be on a queue, and he's actually off queue, which is exactly what he's matching with his meal activity. His impact's neutral. And you basically have quick summary views at the top here, being able to filter. These are the 3 people who are in adherence. These are the people severely out of adherence as well, just providing you quick access to that system. So that's basically workforce engagement in a 15-minute snapshot view. Opening up to questions and passing it to Fiona. Thanks, Fiona.
Thanks, Andrew. Wow, I wish I was back in workforce management on that basis. That would have made life a heck of a lot easier. So we do have some great questions that are coming in, but please keep them coming, because don't forget we have that $200 JB Hi-Fi voucher. While we're actually doing the Q&A session, we're also running a second poll, and you can select up to 3 of the options, which is what do you see as the main area of focus for the upcoming 12 months around employee engagement. And I'll let you read that for yourselves and select your top 3. Okay, so here we go. William would like to know, have you seen any EX trends or differences based on your workforce demographics? Brad, I think that might be one for you.
Yeah, I can take this one. I think we skew quite young in terms of the contact center, and I think it kind of shows in trends around what our employees want, what drives them. I think what their needs are. So I think there's definitely an element of customers really want a social aspect. I think that's really tough with work from home, but getting them engaged in a social aspect. So whether it's, we do a lot of kind of team events, whether it's, games together or things like that with different teams.
Okay, we may.
Did we lose him?
I think we might have lost him. We do love the internet sometimes. So in the meantime, what we'll do is I'll just pose a question to Andy.
Yes.
The specific Genesys question. So what is on the horizon for Genesys to extend on employee engagement even further?
Yeah, it's a great question. We could spend another hour chatting about that. Look, Genesys probably 2 years ago, if you looked at Genesys Cloud, we didn't really have a huge employee engagement platform, really. We've now got 250 people developing employee engagement alone in Genesys in our product management team. So I'm sure the people on the calls today who've probably used Genesys Cloud in the past and maybe haven't seen hardly any of the things that Andrew just went through. So there's been a huge evolution to today to get us to a point where we have this fully connected world and fully connected platform. Mm-hmm. Next is much more of a drive towards using AI and much more of a drive towards, there's a lot of things that are going to change in the way that we engage our employees and the way that we give them that work-life balance and things as well. I think we've got to start adjusting the way we've got to start adjusting the way the business looks at things like schedules and forecasts, and pushes that onto agents, and start giving agents a huge amount more flexibility around where they work, how they work, what hours they work, what shifts they work, and trying to find that balance between operational efficiency as well as employee engagement. And that's a big push for us with the technology coming up.
Thanks, Andy. And we've got Brad back, so that's good. Welcome back. Anna has a question which I know Andrew is madly typing the answer to, but I'm sure everybody that's joined us today would love to know the answer to that question as well. And Anna's question is there capacity for screen sharing via the chat service?
I'll take that one. So yes, this is natively within Genesys Cloud. We basically support screen share, co-browse, definitely the natively within system.
Well, that was a short and sweet answer. Thank you. Brad, another one for you. You're very popular, but for anybody that's asked a question, even if we don't get to it today, it will be answered post the webinar and you will still be in the running for the JB Hi-Fi voucher. I promise you that. So Leslie would like to know, Brad, how do you keep your agents engaged while they're working from home?
Yeah, I think this one's interesting. It's similar to what I was trying to answer before. I think gamification has been really, really valuable from kind of a productivity boost and something that the agents are striving for. I think also back to that kind of, social aspect, it's keeping them engaged with the business. So, if you're hiring new staff, and it's how do you build that culture and maintain it and keep people informed on what the business is and what its key goals are for the next X months or, years, and try to really keep them engaged in the mission. So definitely at a company like ours, which is really innovative and always pushing for the next great thing, we have to really make sure our employees are on that journey. So I think making sure they have access to the information about how different projects are going in different teams, having communications with the executive team. So we have our executive team, communicate and present to all of our employees, and they come into our unique little groups and they actually have little conversations with 6 people at a time kind of thing, and just provide that relationship and network opportunity. So I think it's kind of 2 things. It's use the productivity tools to keep them engaged in the work they're actually doing, such as gamification, team bonding, the QA element, and then open them up to the wider business, whether it's, opening up, playing games. We do a lot of games where we'll play games with someone in IT who the contact center might have no idea about, a back-end developer. And it's just really good. Sometimes you have these connections where people are talking to the person who designed the portal that they use every day. So you have these kind of weird connections where they're both working for the same goal, even though they're so disconnected in what they do every day. So I think as much conversation and productivity kind of boosters you can put in there, that's going to get you good results.
Fantastic, thank you. Another one for you, Andy, very specific again. How has Genesys technology evolved in supporting the engagement of employees?
Oh, look, I think I probably touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think, like I said, a couple of years ago, we had a workforce management platform. I'm talking Genesys Cloud specific here. We had a workforce management platform and quality management. What I think, and I think this is a trend with you'll have heard terms like WFO, workforce optimization, and then we've moved to this WEM world of workforce engagement management. But when you were in the workforce optimization world, people used to talk about, oh, we've got this technology to engage our teams, but actually a lot of that technology was to improve the operational efficiencies of a business. And it was maybe workforce management, but it wasn't steered towards engagement of the employees. It was steered towards how do we get more out of our employees and how do we sweat our assets a little bit more and optimize our center. And I think that's been the evolution over the last couple of years. Is you've got to try and find the balance between optimizing your center and engaging your employees, and that's where I think the evolution has come over the last few years. Is to try and every company, not just Genesys, but every organization who provides these services are trying to achieve exactly that. How do you get the perfect balance between the two? And I think that's probably what's changing more than anything in the engagement world.
Thank you. We've got 1 minute to go. Can you believe it? So I'm going to ask for a quick set of closing remarks. Andrew, do you want to go first?
I would say basically from an employee engagement lens, it's critical to always keep our employees engaged while working from home, using a combination of processes and technology to get that. Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew. Brad?
Yeah, I think I would pretty much echo the exact same thing. I think maybe just adding one additional thing, get the company culture on board, get all the people from the executives down on board with your engagement of employees, and then use your human skills and your tech skills to make that happen for them.
Wonderful. Thanks, Brad. And Andy, of course, you have to have the last word.
Look, for me, technology, and I probably shouldn't say this, technology to me is secondary. Technology is the enabler for you to be able to make the change and make the difference. So really focus on employee well-being and mental health and engagement and the culture, and bringing your employees. Obviously use the technology. That's the enabler to help you do it. But actually your first focus should be on your people and making sure that they're well, and then how you can help guide them forward. And like I said, I'll share that link later, but there's loads of strategies and ideas and ways of being able to work, which we'll share out with you guys as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Andy. I would just add, you need to know your people. So as you guys know, we surveyed about 23,000 frontline staff and organisations this year, and found a massive gulf between what frontline staff expected, what was going to happen post-pandemic, and what organisations said they expected. And only 15% of organisations said that their frontline staff will be working from home 4 to 5 days a week post-pandemic, and 31% of frontline staff said that's what they wanted post-pandemic. So you've already got a challenge there to bridge that gap. So with that, I want to say thank you to Genesis, our national silver sponsor, to Bradley, Andrew and Andy. Thank you for all your insights and your wonderful thoughts. To everybody that joined us today, thank you for taking the time out of your busy calendar. I cannot believe. I'm going to wish you a happy festive season. And see you in 2022. Stay safe and stay well. See you next time.